Welcome back to the Shop Mini RC, everybody. I'm Ken, and today we are looking at something awesome from Mofo RC. Bam! So we sent out our SCX30 over to Mofo, and he decided, Mr. Nick, the man himself, that they wanted to make some awesome products for the SCX30. They wanted to get them done as quick as possible. That way they're ready for when you guys all get your SCX30s. So we went ahead and worked together to get him over basically a rig that he could base everything on. And what is that? Is this a brushless system? Looks like it might be. Boom, brushless. Let's go. Nice and packed in there. All kinds of padding our box. And then we got another box. And more padding. Good job making sure everything's nice and secure. All right, let me get all this out of here. All right, a good chunk of the peanuts out. There's our transmitter back. Here's our truck back. All back to stock. Looking good, looking good. Some RC four-wheel drive tires that we can try on this guy. He sells a bunch of this stuff. So definitely check him out for some RC four-wheel drive tires. I know he made some wheels. Look at this chassis, guys. Nice. Some brass links, aluminum chassis. Looks like a second aluminum chassis. I think there's two different styles here. One's like a lift kit. We'll check it out. Definitely excited for that. Wheel nuts and some wheels. Two different types of wheels. Two different sets of wheels here with some brass in there. We'll get in there. What else? What else? What else? More brass. Brass chassis. Standard brass chassis. 737 brass chassis. There we go. What is this? NeoBeast. Wait, is my motor not in there? You took the motor out? Wonder what's inside. What's inside here? What's inside here? Some Mofo stickers. Always loving the Mofo slaps. What else we got? What else we got? That's it? All right. Let's see what this thing is. First thing we're going to do is open this guy up, because it looks like you took our motor out. It means we got something else in there. What do we got here? Ooh, NeoBeast already installed. So this, you guys can just throw straight in. You don't have to change any of your ESC receiver. You can still use your stock stuff. We'll check that out for sure. But, oh, what? What? You got wheel weights inside the stock wheels already? Get out of here. Get out of here. That's awesome. All right. Let's start diving into some of this stuff in detail. All right, let's go ahead and start with this motor here. This is a NeoBeast. So Mofo installed this and sent it back with it. Unbeknownst to us, thought he was going to send it back fully stock, but he had a little surprise for us, which is awesome. This NeoBeast can be used in an SCX24 or the SCX30. And this is a fantastic upgrade if you're looking for something to get a little bit more torque, a little bit more smooth crawl. This motor is kind of like an 050 internals. Let me go ahead and plug it in here. But it's in an 030 size motor housing, so it's going to be a lot more smooth in its modulation. You get a real good slow crawl out of it, and a decent amount of wheel speed. And I think it's like 14 or 15 bucks on the website. 30,000 RPM motor. And it does feel better than the stock for sure. And the nice thing about it is you're going to get a much better motor without having to change out any of your electronics. You're still on the stock electronics. So you don't have to change any of that. You can use your stock transmitter. And it's just a super simple, easy upgrade. Also, a nice thing is the motor wires here are soldered at a 90-degree angle. So they're not sticking out. So they come that way soldered. You don't have to solder it. It'll plug straight in. Pretty simple drop-in upgrade. Very cool. It comes with the Mod 3 11-tooth pinion, so you don't have to mess with the pinion at all. It's all good to go there. All right. So that's a very cool thing. I'm glad he included that. We're probably going to end up tearing this guy out, though, to go brushless. And we'll do that in a different video. But, yeah, we're going to go brushless with this guy. Very cool. Maybe we'll have that installed by the end, but we'll have a separate video showing the brushless install. All right, let's see what else we got here. We got these awesome little wheel weights in brass. So these work with the stock wheels. You can see we've already got them. He already installed them here for us. So you can see they're being offered in two different weights, the brass and the aluminum. The brass are 1.8 grams a piece. So you can get a pretty good amount of weight there, 3.6 grams of extra weight in the front. And then if you want to add weight to the rear, you can add the same thing with the brass, or you can add aluminums. Gives you some nice tunability there. The aluminums are 0.5 grams per wheel. So not a lot, but it does give you a little bit. Also, they'll look cool underneath there. They look like brake rotors, especially the aluminum ones. And they just kind of clip right in underneath your wheel here. I'll show you. They just kind of pop in like so. They have little slots in them. These little slots are to make sure you don't block your venting that's in these wheels, because these wheels do have little vent holes in them. And yeah, they just slide right in, no problem. Sit nice and flush. Easy upgrade. They should be right around $4.99 for the aluminum, $5.99 for the brass. And again, a super simple plug and play option for getting some extra weight down low. And yeah, I definitely dig that. And these guys are sold by the pair, so you're buying two for that price. And that way you can mix and match it however you'd like. Speaking of wheels and tires, he's also making some 0.7-inch weighted wheels, which these are they're plastic. They're actually a nylon 12 type of 3D print that actually looks really, really good. I kind of like the texture on there. And again, it's nylon, so it's nylon 12 tough is the type of material it's made out of. They're sandblasted aluminum on these guys, or brass, and they come with these weights. Let's see, I believe they're going to come with both sets, or maybe you're buying them. Oh yeah, you buy them either aluminum or brass. So you get either a full set of aluminum or a full set of brass. It'd be nice if you offered a combo where you got 2 aluminum, 2 brass. But worst case, you can always buy the extra set and then tune it how you'd like. But again, these are some awesome little wheels. These drop in, you can see they're keyed in there, and you can just drop in your aluminum or brass and kind of push it in, get it keyed. Might take a little finessing, but get it nice and flush and you're good to go. Look at that. And you can run them without the inserts if you really wanted to, but I would run them at least with the aluminums. One thing of note is the wheel itself is completely round on the hub. See that? Versus these are keyed. So the key is going to help prevent any slippage on the axle there. But these are some very cool looking wheels. Now you may be asking, these tires are glued on. How do we get them onto these wheels? Well, there are very few ways to get this off successfully. Some people try acetone and stuff. You might damage the wheel. I haven't tried any of that yet on these wheels and tires, but sometimes some acetone will get it off and you can try to put them on there. But I would just recommend getting some new 0.7-inch tires. And Mofo offers a whole bunch of RC 4-wheel drive tires. Look at that. And these guys just mount right on there. You can glue them if you'd like. You don't have to. They're nice and snug. They don't really have a whole lot of slippage. The texture of the wheels plus the tightness of the tire on there definitely helps keep it nice and snug. You can see I'm holding pretty tight and it's still spinning the wheel. It's hard to see. There you go. Do this side. I'm going to squeeze it. And oh man, you got to really, really, really pull on it to get it to slip on there. But there's a whole bunch of different tires. I'll kind of list them over here and show you so you can kind of see what all is offered from a tire standpoint on mofo.com. They have the Milestar Patagonias, the Intercos, the Wild Peak, BF Goodrich Mud Terrains, the KM3s and the KM2s. So a bunch of different options. Definitely snag up a set of tires. These tires are pretty good. They're pretty sticky. They've been around for a while from RC 4-wheel drive, but it's just a good option while you're placing your order for any of the Mofo stuff. You should get a set of tires. These things are going to make this thing a monster. Part of putting these big tires on there means you're going to rub, okay, with a stock setup. But luckily Mofo has a solution for that, and that is some of the chassis options that we'll look at later. So stick around and we'll check out some of these chassis that he's offering. But I wanted to show you the wheels and tires here. Very cool. Again, both are brass and aluminum inserts. These wheels are essentially 18 millimeters, maybe 19 once they're set inside, right? Like the inner bead, where the inner bead sits. That's a 0.7 inch essentially. That's very similar to like these Orlando's here. This is an 18 millimeter Orlando wheel. And these will even work on the Orlando's if you wanted to swap over these wheels and some of the RC 4-wheel drive tires onto an Orlando. Uses the same hub So yeah, you can just drop this right on there. Again, a little bit larger diameter on the outer diameter. Each different RC four-wheel drive tire is going to be a different diameter and a different width as far as the outer diameter and width. But yeah, just some cool options, which is really nice. And again, the weighted wheels, so you can change the weight bias, put the aluminums in the front or the aluminums in the rear, then the brass in the front. And just kind of rock it like so. Very cool. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Look at the next thing. Looks like we've got the brass steering link. This brass steering link is also going to be offered in aluminum. It's got some bushings and whatnot, since there's not little ball joints in this, but yeah. So the steering link is a lower steering link. It's going to replace just this main link here, not the drag link, just the steering link. But that's going to get us some additional weight as well as some durability. It's offered in both aluminum and brass. The aluminum's 0.5 grams. The brass is going to be 1.8 grams. So that's a decent amount of weight, even though it's a small piece. 1.8 grams all the way up in the front, as far forward as possible, and almost as low as you're going to be able to get on a non-rotational mass. It comes with the link, a M14 by 8 screw, so a little 8 millimeter 1/4 screw, and then some little plastic bushings here that kind of sandwich that guy for mounting it on the side over here. We'll go right on that side, which is going to help us get just that weight forward, which is super nice. And again, this is a very cheap part, well priced, $7.99 for the brass, $6.99 for the aluminum. So we just unscrew both sides. We do have to pop this ball joint off, this link, and then we're going to have to pop this ball joint off of here as well. It's kind of a pain because it's a double ball joint, but you should be able to push it through. Let's see if we use some flush cuts here to hold on to it. I should be able to pop this through, no problem. And pop it through the second one. There we go. And then our link should have no problem dropping in. Let's see, which direction do we need to go here? Our drag link goes this way, so yeah, it should be like that. Pop our drag link back on. And then we can use the provided screw to drop in here. And you'll see one side is has a larger hole than the other. This side has the smaller hole. Obviously, it's for the screw. The larger side is for the ball joint. And easy peasy. You don't want to over tighten that. Make sure you leave a little bit of play in there, a little bit of slack. Not much, but just a tiny bit. That way it's not binding up. If you need to, you can back it off just a little, quarter turn. And there we go. Nice little brass extra weight up front. If you want, you can always take a Dremel or just some sandpaper and round out this front piece here, just this lower lip, so that you got kind of a smooth transition if you start to hit rocks. But yeah, I dig it. Super easy upgrade. Get you some forward weight bias for sure. All right, let's look at the next stuff in line. Next up, we've got lower links, and he offers them in both brass and aluminum, and they're high clearance. The nice thing about these links is they're going to get us weight super low. And sometimes people will say that, you know, brass lower links are not ideal. And while I generally tend to agree, I'm not a big fan of brass on lower links because you'll get caught on rocks, and they kind of, brass is a softer metal, so it can gouge and get stuck on rocks. But with these little guys, we're going to be running them mostly on indoor courses. So the brass is going to be kind of irrelevant. It's not going to really get caught on anything that's going to really gouge it. You know, most of the terrain is pretty smooth. Or we use our crawler track stuff, which is wood, and the wood and brass will smooth nice. But if you are worried about that, there's the aluminum offering as well. The aluminum is going to add 2 grams of weight down low. The brass is going to add 6. So 6 is a ton of extra weight, especially on this little guy. Remember, 1 gram is a ton on something this small, you know, under 200 grams for this whole rig. I don't remember what it weighed out for when it was stock. You can check out our full review video where we weigh the whole thing and do weight bias and all that kind of stuff. But adding 1 gram, that's a big deal. So it's going to add some really good weight down low. And like I said, the brass, I'm not worried about it. It's going to look great, and it's going to help it perform a lot better, especially on our inclines and whatnot, getting our center of gravity much lower. All All right, let's go ahead and get these installed. It should be super, super simple. Should be able to just use all of our stock ball joints here and just basically pop these over it. There are no O-rings included, but if you wanted to, you could try to O-ring these if you felt like there was too much play. We'll see. There is a note on the website just saying that an O-ring can be added on one side to remove any minimal play that you might find if you find that there's too much play in there for you. But at least it's adjustable. You can add larger O-rings or smaller O-rings depending on the sizes you've got, and help kind of adjust that. But let's go ahead and get these in. We'll see how they feel once they're installed. I did want to point out, the website says they're 6 grams, but I was just curious and I weighed them, and it actually came to 6.58 grams. So a little bit more than what the website states, which is always awesome. I love that Mofo is super transparent, and they kind of overestimate stuff. Some places will be, oh, they're 7 grams, and they come in at 6.5. They told us 6, and they come in at 6.5, which is a little extra bonus, which I appreciate that. Let's get them in. These lower links are super easy to pull out. Just one screw for the backside here, and then pop off your shock and pull off the ball joint. I'm going to use some flush cuts here to go ahead and pull the stud off of the link. You can use needle nose pliers. Just don't mar up the threading. I wouldn't grab the threading at all if you do this. And then we can just use our screwdriver to kind of push the ball joint out. It's actually probably easier if we did it against the mat, but you can push it through. Just don't stab yourself, and it'll pop right out. And then the ball will just fit right in there. If it doesn't fit going through, you can always flip it around and push it through the other side. The tolerances are super tight, and the way that the laser cut on here goes, it kind of sometimes will only fit through one side, but it's nice because there's not a lot of play in there. So that's super good. So then we can go ahead and get our ball stud screwed in. We can throw the link on there and get our shock on there. We'll do this without O-rings first. We'll see how it goes. If it seems too loose, we'll throw some O-rings on. So go ahead and grab our little ball joint here, stick it through, and again, if it doesn't go through one side, just stick it through the other. We need to make sure this is nice and aligned to get it to go into the skid. If it's kind of canted at all, you're going to have a heck of a time. So just get it aligned and drop it in there. Get our screw, throw our screw in, and simple as that. Make sure your screw's nice and snug. Don't over tighten. Looks like we're good here. There's quite a bit of side-to-side play there. Probably more than I'd like. I think we'll put an O-ring on the inside down here, and then on the outside toward the shock up here. Or no, we'll do it the other way. Inside at the shock, and then outside at the bottom. That way we can get some better triangulation, because there's just too much play in there. The side-to-side play seems fine, but I kind of like it a little more snug. So we'll put one there, and then we'll put an O-ring on the outside near the skid to get better triangulation. You want to have as much triangulation as possible. It helps prevent the axle from moving side to side. You just pull that link out a little bit, and then your upper links are going in, and you're getting that cross bracing essentially. So I found that using some tweezers can really help, especially when we're dealing with these tiny O-rings and trying to get this in there super straight. Again, if you don't get it in there super straight, it's just going to fight you the whole way. So having some tweezers can kind of help position that ball joint along with keeping the O-ring on there, and you can kind of just drop it in and get it lined up and help kind of push the ball if it's at an angle to get it to kind of go in there. Pretty easy though. I already had my screw set in here a little bit, so all I had to do is screw it and we're good. Simple as that. The O-rings definitely help remove some of that play in there, and it's not binding. It'll stay nice and smooth. Feels really good. These links are awesome. Definitely digging these links for sure. It feels really good. The O-rings I think help smooth it out, and again kind of remove some of that side-to-side slop in the link, and should be good on the rear too. But I've noticed on these little tiny screws, sometimes you'll back them out and they won't come out any further, and it's like you can just keep trying to back them out and the threading's not catching because it's already pulled out of the other side where it's threaded. So just pull on the link, put some pressure on there so that the screw has something to kind of thread against, and it'll help you back it out. You just got to kind of pull on the link or push up on it or whatever in the ball joint, and the threading will catch and help you pull it out. I just think that that's a good little tip there to help you get that thing out easier. So I also realized that maybe it's easier to put the links into the skid first versus putting them onto the shock side. So do them in the skid, make that way you've got your full hand on it, and you're able to kind of manipulate the ball joint and the O-ring down into there without it being stuck on the other side. Definitely makes it easier to kind of push down in straight, and then you can take your other side and attach it to your shock ball joints and whatnot. So definitely makes it easier to do it that way. And there we go, looking good. I love the way these things look. The high clearance looks awesome. One thing of note though, they are hitting on those upper links. You can kind of see it hit there. And while you could probably leave it, I would probably move those upper links to the top ball joint right here, and definitely makes it have plenty of clearance. You can see we already did it on this side. Plenty of clearance, they're not touching at all. You could also, if you really wanted to leave it on the lower, you could grind it down on the top of that link, but super easy to swap these over. Plus it gives you a little bit of anti-squat. Gives you some pliers, pull them up, and you're good to go. Plenty of clearance, nice and smooth, a little bit of extra anti-squat. I'm digging it. It's going to be awesome. Love the extra weight down low. It's going to be good. Feels really smooth too, so no side-to-side play. Very minimal. Nothing more than even stock. The stock still have just a tiny bit of side-to-side, but that really comes down to how much is triangulated. You can see they're pretty tight in there as far as the O-rings, keeping them nice and snug. So I definitely recommend using the O-rings. Like I said, put the O-rings on the outside, on the skid in the middle, and then on the inside of the shock side so that you can get better triangulation. If you do it the other way, you'll have less triangulation, might have more side-to-side axle shifting. But yeah, looking great. So next we'll be looking at the 4 different chassis. It's really 2 different styles, but brass and aluminum. But before we do that, let's look at these tires. So these are some of the wheels with the 0.7 tires on them. You can see they are much larger diameter, outer diameter on the tires for these guys, and you can see why we might need the 727 lift. We're running these RC 4-wheel drive tires. These are the Mickey Thompson Baja Claw TTC scale tires. And again, RC 4-wheel drive has a whole bunch of different tires, and Mofo carries them as well. So you can check them out and throw them on here. But here they are compared to the stock tires. You can see quite a big difference there. But definitely chunky, definitely meaty. It's going to rub. That's the nature. But again, that's what the 737 chassis is going to do. It's going to help kind of give us a lift, give us more wheel well gap so that we don't rub as much. We are going to go ahead and throw the 737 lift on here. You can see on this aluminum one, there's shock mounts. They're kind of dropped down about 7 millimeters in the front and back, going to give you a little bit of extra lift so you can fit these bigger wheels and tires on there. And you could run it with the stock wheels and tires, but you're going to get quite a bit of a wheel well gap there. Let's take a look at some of the other chassis too here. So the first chassis is the stock replacement. Basically, completely replaces the stock chassis, no lift. It's being dubbed the Pocket Snake, and it's available in aluminum and brass. It's like $25 depending on which one you get, and it's going to give you a lot of modularity, which is nice, a lot of shock adjustments, replaceable mounts for your body and things of that nature. Stock chassis, while it is super cool, is it's a single piece. It's one whole piece, so that means if you ever need to replace a body mount or something of that nature, you can't because it's solid. But these guys, you're able to kind of replace the different mounts, add extra battery trays, or adjust the battery trays and all your shocks and stuff like that. So that's definitely going to be a nice thing compared to the stock chassis on these guys. And then next we'll have the lift chassis, again, which is the 737 Modzilla, and this guy is going to give you that extra 7 millimeters of lift. It's going to be right around $24.99, depending on where you get aluminum or brass. You can also combo it with the 0.7 inch weighted wheels, and that's the price there. So all the same awesome features and benefits that you have from the modular design, as well as extra servo clearance as well. So you're gonna have extra clearance for if you swap out servos or just to make sure you're not hitting on the servo. Definitely a cool little setup here. So the standard kind of stock replacement chassis, again, it's offered in both aluminum and a brass. So the aluminum one is going to be 5.5 grams for the whole chassis, which is actually 1 gram lighter than the stock. So if you want a lighter weight chassis, the aluminum is definitely the way to go. As far as the brass on this chassis, it's 11.5 grams. So it's 5 grams heavier than stock. So if you want to add some more weight, and again, this is going to be actually pretty low down weight. Generally, I like to do weight below the shocks, like axle weight. But on these little guys, there's only so much you can do to add weight down low, and we've already kind of done that. Maybe aluminum or brass knuckles when those come out, but really there's very limited options on getting it low weight. And with this hard body here. Hard bodies are super top heavy, so this will help get us weight even lower, even though it's sprung weight, which is not always ideal. In this case, I think it's going to be because, again, we have a hard body, and you need to counteract that hard body as much as possible. So I think this brass chassis is going to be the way to go here. I really like that this is a modular style design, so if you have different body mounts that come out or things of that nature, you can swap them over. It's unlike the stock chassis, which is a full single piece chassis here. If something were to break or you need to change something, it's going to be much more difficult to kind of modularly fix that. This is a very cool setup too. It just uses 4 screws to kind of hold the whole chassis together. You can see there's kind of a bend in these. They don't lay completely flat. That's because of the shape of the chassis, obviously, kind of bows out at the skid here. But there's some nice Mofo etching here. And this guy, the name of this thing is the Pocket Snake. So the standard chassis kit is called the Pocket Snake. And again, the lifted 7mm is the 737 Modzilla chassis kit. And yeah, let me go ahead and show you how this installs here. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's got a nice little electronics tray here, which is good, especially if you decide to go brushless. And you want to make sure your engraving, your Mofo engraving, is facing outward, obviously. And then we just use a single screw to go ahead and mount this to our plastic. Again, this is nylon, the nylon body mount here, or chassis brace. Go ahead and screw this guy down in. Now, one thing of note too, the chassis are threaded. These are tapped. So all these little holes for your shock mounts and for these screws here, they're tapped screws. And Mofo did that because he didn't want to rely strictly on the plastic, because you could easily strip out this plastic and then your shocks won't stay and they'll be falling out and stuff like that. So very awesome that all this is threaded. I really appreciate that. Let's see, this guy should go this way. Yeah, this way. And there's got these little keys in there, and you can see it keyed in here, keying in there, and then just our little M14 screw here. You can use your 1.3 or 050 driver to go ahead and screw that guy in and get her nice and snug. Don't over tighten because you are going into plastic, but there you go. It's even got Mofo branding right there, which is awesome to see. And yeah, super excited for this. It's cool to have a chassis already for these little guys. The brass and aluminum are fairly malleable, so if for some reason they seem like they're not quite sitting perfectly flat, or not flat because you don't want them flat, but they're not bent quite right, maybe in shipping or something, they got kind of flattened out, you're going to be able to easily get it to shape around your mounts and then your center skid here. Got to make sure we're nice and snug up against the hole before we go in, because you are kind of double threading it. You're threading through the chassis and into the brace there. And then don't over tighten. Again, you're going into plastic. And there we go. Little Pocket Snake chassis. We get these other ones built.
A few moments later.
All right, ladies and gents, there they are. We have the Modzilla, 737 Modzilla, 7mm lift. You can see it drops the shock down, which I actually prefer dropping the shock down versus just putting longer shocks. I don't want a lot more articulation personally. I just want the body lift so I could fit the larger tires. So that's good there. If you do want to do a lift, you can also just do longer shocks, but we got to wait for somebody to make longer shocks for that to happen. And if you want to do longer shocks plus this, maybe you start to get into that monster truck territory, which could be kind of fun with one of these little guys. And then we have our little Pocket Snake here, brass and aluminum Pocket Snake. Basically your stock chassis, stock mounting locations, plus extra shock mounting locations, which is awesome, but stock heights and whatnot. And these are all standard wheelbase lengths. There's no extended wheelbase chassis here at all standard. And yeah, it should be cool. So we're going to go ahead and actually throw this guy on though. We're going to do this 7mm lift and try to get ourselves some more clearance for these tires here. And should be a pretty easy swap. So let's go ahead and dive into that, and I'll show you how to do it. So I think we're going to be able to do this with just removing 8 screws and then our 4 shocks. So obviously you'll have to remove your 4 shocks, our front bumper or light mount, our rear body and light mount. So there's 4, 5, 6 on our sliders, 7, 8. So 8 screws, just the 2 on the sliders, and that should be it. Should be pretty simple. Let's go ahead and pop these 4 out on our side skids. You don't have to pull your links out. The links are attached to the center skid. They're not actually attached through the chassis, which is super nice. Good design by Axial. You can see there's a little hole here And that's where our link goes, but that hole is in the chassis itself. It's actually not screwing through the chassis. It's just an access hole so that you can get access to that screw. But the actual link is mounted to the center skid. So that is freaking awesome. Love that. Go ahead and pull this guy out. We're going to try to keep all of our electronics in place here. I don't want to move too much out of there. We're going to try to do this as minimal, with as minimal work as possible. We've even got our batteries still in there, so let's see how it goes. So our 4 screws for our side skids here, and you can see the chassis actually just pulls apart a little bit. So we're going to be able to pull that all out, which will be nice. And our front lights, our rear lights, we're going to have to pull all the wiring out of these little wire retainers, which is one thing nice about that stock chassis. So it's got all these little wire retainers there. And pull all of our shocks out. So let's go ahead and get our shocks removed. Ta-da! And now we should be able to actually, we might have to unplug our lights here. We'll unplug our rear lights. And I think we can probably just pull this all out through the chassis. Hopefully, maybe. That would be nice. Oh, I don't know. Maybe? Will it fit? Oh, kind of bendy. It's kind of bendy. Yes! There we go. Just make sure you don't mess up your wires. Pull out anything out of your motor. Here we go. Boom! Just like that. Whole thing comes right out. We don't have to worry about our drive shafts or anything. Awesome. Got our Modzilla. Let's go ahead and get that in there. Put it right through the same way the other one came through. Well, you know what? This will be easier by pulling one off. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off these 2 screws. And that'll make it way easier to put this back on. Because I don't want to bend it and break the plastic and the mounts on these. We could probably try to force it. But there's no reason to. It's only 2 screws. Might as well pull it apart. And that'll make it way easier to assemble here. The stock chassis, you can't really do that because it's a single piece, right? Like it's a single entire piece here, which is, there's no way around having to pull it through. I guess you could take the transmission out of the skid and it'd drop out easier, but it is what it is. We're fine. So I went ahead and put our slider in, got our screws lined up. We're going to go ahead and line this up and then get it into our skid here. Make sure we're lined up. Oh, no, popped out. There we go. Just make sure you go in straight. You should be good. I'm going to do a little there, and we'll do a little on this one. Just make sure you're nice and lined up. We should be golden. And doing one side and then the other definitely is easier than trying to tuck it in there, especially since we can take the chassis and separate it from the braces. And again, don't over tighten because you are going into plastic on the skid. The skid is plastic, so you don't want to over tighten it. Plus, even if it were metal, you don't want to over tighten. These things are tiny. All right, there we go. And then get our other chassis rail in. Again, it'll just slide right in. Boom. Get our 2 screws holding our braces on. And then our 2 screws holding our skid plate on. Which is all mounted up there on the skid plate. Got our rear light and body mount, our front light mount, all on the chassis. Everything's all in, nice and snug. And then we go ahead and put our shocks in. Now we have to figure out how we're going to do our shocks here. How high do we really want things to sit? I kind of want them, let's just do them right in the middle here. I think we'll just do kind of this middle mount, a little lower. I don't want it jacked up to the sky. I'm not really a jacked up kind of guy. I like my rigs typically low and slung onto the ground. Actually, here, let's do this. Let's do the lowest position and see how that works with these tires, these larger tires. We'll just see how that feels. Again, don't over tighten. You are screwing into brass here. Brass is soft, so you can strip those out if you're not careful. Just be careful. But at least it's metal, right? You're going into metal versus plastic, which is nice. So by mounting our shocks at this much of an angle, it's going to give us more articulation than normal. It's also going to kind of lower it. But again, we'll see where we're at. If we need to, we can move the shock back. Actually, I put it in the wrong spot here. We need to put it up one to get it the same as the other side. But the more you angle your shocks inward towards the center of the skid, the more articulation you're going to get. The more dropout you're going to get. The more vertical you have your shocks, right? The more like this your shocks are, the more the spring is actually going to do what it's supposed to do, and the less articulation you're going to get. Which again, I'm not a big fan of tons of articulation. I'd like to have controllable articulation. I mean, this feels really good. Nice and smooth with those links. And how this is set up here. Awesome. But we do have a ton of shock mounting positions, which I really appreciate. If we're rubbing too much, again, we can move our shock back here and get it more vertical, and that will also raise the height just a little bit. Also, the more you lay down your shocks, the softer your springs become, the less the springs are doing their work. They're not really getting softer, but it means they'll compress easier because they're at an angle. All right, let's do the fronts in the same spot. We'll do them in the highest position, which is going to lower us the maximum amount right there, and lay them back as far as possible, so that'll get us as low as possible on this lift chassis. Again, the whole point of this chassis though is to get that lift, to get that clearance, and if we lower it too much, we might still rub, but we'll see. I just kind of want to see where it is. I want to get it as little wheel well gap as possible. I don't like all that gap. No gap in my wheel wells, please, but we also don't want to rub too much. So all right, I think we're good though. Look at all this extra mounting space, guys. That's awesome. Nice and low mounting space. Keeps everything low center of gravity. So if you do go brushless, you can use the sliders that are provided by Axial, which are just flat sliders, and you've got room on the sides as well as room back here with your new mount. All right, get this on there. Clippy, clippy. And boom. There we go. So it looks like we're still going to rub at full compression. We got to get the other tires on to really feel it out, but we do have a little bit of lift there. And we're going to have a lot more articulation than we did. But we're definitely going to rub a little. Maybe we Dremel this guy. Maybe we Dremel it down a little bit. Give ourselves a little bit extra room. There it is on the stock. You can see you've got extra space there. This may not be that full 7 millimeters. You have a lot more dropout though, for sure, because of the angle of the shock. So again, if we mount that shock more vertical, we're not going to have quite as much dropout, but we will have a naturally higher ride height. But yeah, that's full compression. Here we are sitting on the ground. Again, we don't have the same wheels and tires on each side, so it's going to be a little different. You can see this is kind of bottoming out because of the angle of the shocks. Again, that spring's not doing its work. It's making the spring essentially softer because it's laying down so much. And then here's those big old beefy, meaty tires. Kind of like that. We might need to raise the rear one mount. Maybe we'll make it more vertical. I feel like it's a little too soft. We've still got some spring in the front, but that rear is kind of bottomed out. I think it's just because our springs are already fairly soft and they're laying down. So let's go ahead and adjust that position. So you can see down in there, we moved it back. Basically almost vertical. We could go back even further if we really wanted to, but it really jacks it up there. So again, you're just going to want to play with it and figure out kind of how do you want it to sit, how big are your tires. Again, there's multiple 0.7 inch tires, outer diameter, so it just is going to depend on that. And these are massive tires for this little guy, but it's kind of cool looking. I'm generally a tiny tire guy, but I do like the meatiness. I would like to see somebody come out with some tires that are closer to this size, maybe a little meatier looking. It's kind of more luggy, a little bit more lugs, but on a smaller diameter tire. I would appreciate that. Even on these 0.7 inch wheels, just a little bit less outer diameter on the tire, I think would be good, just to kind of keep it a little bit more scale looking. But man, if you want something kind of beefed out and chunky, this is going to be it. I think we need to bring our shock back one position. Every little adjustment makes such a big difference. You can see it looks like it's jacked up, and we didn't even really move it that far. We moved it from here to here, so it wasn't really like a huge movement. We'll go ahead and put it in the middle here though. That might get us our sweet spot for kind of how I think it should be. And again, we could even raise it even more because we're on the top mounts here, which is going to get it lower. And if you put it on the bottom mounts, you're going to get that much more height out of it if you put it on the bottom row of shock mounts in there. And there we go. That sits much better in my opinion. We got a little bit of spring, a little bit of movement in there. It's not bottomed out because it's laying so flat. So our springs are doing what they're supposed to. And then we have a little bit of dropout. This is actual droop. When you lift up your truck, so you have it sitting at its natural height. And then when you lift it up from the chassis, that movement from natural ride height down on those wheels, those dropping down, that's your droop. So that's technically what droop is. I know a lot of people think it means slamming the truck. Droop is not slamming the truck. Droop is when the truck has dropout on the axles. Anyway, so that's good. That's much better. We're still going to rub on the front. Maybe our front needs lifted just a little bit. We'll move that shock mount forward one just to get a little bit of space on that front so we won't rub as bad. Let's look at that. Hell yeah, much better. Again, we're still going to rub a little. That's okay. That's to be expected with tires this big. I mean, there's only so much you can do. Heck, these tires almost want to rub on the links. Almost. They might be rubbing on our shocks. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Oh, did our tire fall off our wheel? Well, that's also not going to help. Let's see here. I pushed on it too hard in maybe it was when I was pulling the body off. I think I pulled the tire off of the wheel. Again, if you are really worried about that, you can glue them. They're kind of meant to be glued. All right, there we go. Yeah, no rub. No rubbing on the shock. Got plenty of space there. Looking good. Let's go ahead and put our wheels, our big fatty tires on as well, on both sides. Make sure we're sitting, because you'll sit kind of different based on the other side being a different diameter. It's not going to sit completely flat, if you know what I mean. Boom! Both sides done. Looking good. Got that chunky lift on it. Plenty of suspension flex. I'm going to have a little bit of rub in here, just on the body. I mean, that's, again, to be expected with these big old tires. But, man, and it feels weighty. I can feel the weight. Freaking awesome. Alrighty, let's go ahead and weigh this guy. The original weight was 140.5. And now look, we're at 167.2, 167.1. Let's make sure we're sitting flat. 167.7, 0.9. Let's just say 167.6. So 167.6 from the 140.5, that's a 27.1 gram difference. That's basically 20%. It's 120% heavier. Well, it's 20% heavier. It's weight plus 20%. So yeah, that's a good addition, a good amount of weight added. And then if you look at the weight bias on the front to rear, it's 53-47, where it was 50-50 before. So 53-47, extra 3% to the front. And with a hard body like that, especially given that it's a heavy rear and that body, that's good overall. And again, so that's not just additional weight. That's not just 20% heavier. It's 20% heavier lower, right? It's all a lot lower, which is going to be super helpful in our side hilling and uphilling and all that kind of stuff. It definitely feels like it's more stable just holding it. You know what I mean? So that's going to be an awesome upgrade, guys. And again, that's lifted too. If you go with the stock chassis and you keep the stock wheel diameters, it's gonna have an even better lower center of gravity. But we want to get these chonkies on there. All right, guys, pretty awesome. Thanks for checking out all of the cool stuff that Mofo is offering, all the brass or aluminum. If you prefer the aluminum, that's always an option as well. All the different chassis styles. First to market with a new chassis for the SCX30. I love to see it, an American company doing awesome things. We should always try to support American companies and whatnot. So that was one of the big reasons I wanted to send out my truck to Mofo specifically. We did have a lot of other companies trying to get the truck, and I didn't want to send it overseas at all. I felt like it should stay here stateside. Plus, I have other videos I wanted to do, so I didn't want to just send it off. I know some other influencers literally sold their trucks to other companies, and I'm not about that. You know, we like to keep the trucks that we get, especially for review purposes and for comparison purposes and whatnot. But I know some of the other guys out there definitely sold their trucks to other companies and other interests. And I felt like, I can send it over to Mofo. He'll have it for a weekend, get it back to me. Nothing lost there and a whole bunch gained. So again, huge shout out to Mofo for the quick design of this chassis, guys. He did a really good job. Knocked it out of the park with this, I think, giving us something really awesome right off the get-go for the SCX30. Multiple options. Again, weight where people kind of want it. Nice down low. It looks awesome. Looks like it's a king now. And I really appreciate the adjustability and all the different features that are integrated into the stuff that he's given, from the wheels to the shock mounts to the battery or electronics trays and things of that nature. Mofo is killing it. Why don't you go ahead, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, put down in the comments below, that's one bad mofo. Put it down in the comments. That way I know you watched the whole video. That's one bad mofo, because it certainly is. And I appreciate everybody watching, appreciate everybody hanging out and showing Mofo their support down in the comments below. Definitely check out the stuff. We'll put a link down in the description below. I don't think we have any affiliate set up. I don't even know if Mofo does affiliates. Maybe we'll have a coupon code down there. I don't know. We don't have a coupon code currently, but we probably should if there is one. But we'll see. We'll see. Either way, we'll put it down in the description below. Definitely check it out and snag one up. One of the chassis or link sets, front link, wheels, tires, any of the stuff, even the brushless, which, like I said, we will have another video installing the NeoBeast 3500 kV brushless system into this guy, separate little video, and I'll probably put that up over here somewhere or something. You can check it out after this one. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Huge shout out to everybody that helps support the channel. Here's all of our channel members. They get to see videos early before anybody else without ads. They also get behind the scenes footage and things of that nature, priority comment replies, all kinds of good stuff. So if you want to support the channel up to that next extra level, you can do that. We have different tiers for that, and different tiers get different benefits and bonuses and perks and whatnot. Also, we have a Discord, so we'll put that down in the description below. We have a link to our website as well, theshophobbies.com, which is not a retail store. It is not. People keep thinking we're doing retail. We are not a retailer, but that is a link to our website that has all of our different communities on there, from Facebook groups to our Discord and other stuff that we're doing. It's just kind of a place to keep track of all of the different things I'm involved in, I guess. If you want to check that out, go to theshophobbies.com and check out all of our different groups. We have a SCX30 Facebook group, and then, like I said, a Discord. So if you like to chat in Discord, we have a small scale Discord, small scale RC Discord. You can check that out. That should also be in the description below, and channel members have a special channel in there as well. So if you're a channel member, make sure you let me know. If you're in that Discord, I can add you to that special channel for channel members only. Well, I guess that's it, guys. I appreciate it. Again, all you have to do is click that like, subscribe, share, and notification bell. Those clicks, they're all free, and they're just a single click for you. Well, 4 clicks, I guess, really. But it means the world to me, and helps support the channel in ways you cannot imagine. Let's beat up that YouTube algorithm and show them that you want to see more content like this. Thanks again, everybody. Make sure you get out there and build something awesome. Build a car, build a course, build a community, and then smash it, crash it, and bash it. But don't break your new expensive parts. Peace, everybody.